I never thought the sound of my own heartbeat could feel like a countdown to my ruin. But there it was, thundering inside my chest as if mocking me, reminding me that my body had betrayed me in the cruelest way possible. I was an omega. In America, you're taught to believe that freedom means choice. But when your secondary gender is decided by biology, by genetics, by something you never asked for, freedom becomes a lie. Especially when the alpha you love looks at you as if you're a stain he can't wash off. His name was Adrian Wolfe. My name is Evan Carter. And this is the story of how fate pulled us into a war between pride, love, and survival, one that nearly killed me before it saved me. Adrian wasn't supposed to know. I had hidden my designation for months, burying it under suppressants and carefully rehearsed lies. On campus, I was just another 21-year-old literature major with a quiet voice and an obsessive love for poetry. I was nobody, and that was safer. But fate is cruel in the most cinematic ways. My suppressant wore off at the worst possible moment during a late-night study session in the empty university library. Just the two of us under the flickering light of the reading lamps. Adrian, with his broad shoulders slouched against the chair, his black hoodie stretched over strong arms, was reading aloud from a textbook he clearly didn't care about. His voice was low, rich, the kind that could turn instructions on a fire extinguisher into a gospel. And then looked up at me. It hit like lightning. The sharpness in his expression softened. His nostrils flared. And for one unbearable second, I knew. He knew. You're an omega. His voice dropped, heavy and venomous. The book slipped from my trembling hands. No, don't lie to me, Evan. His jaw clenched. I can smell it. God, all this time you were pretending? Around me? My chest burned. But not from shame, from the way he said it, as if being near me was something dirty. I didn't want you to know, I whispered, barely breathing. He stood up so fast his chair screeched against the floor. His height towered over me, his alpha presence filling the space like a storm. But there was no protection in it, only rejection. Of course you didn't, because you knew what I'd think. His eyes flicked over me, cold and cutting. Pathetic. I don't deal with people who hide who they are. And especially not an omega. That was the first time he broke me. The days that followed were unbearable. Every hallway I walked down, I felt his shadow somewhere behind me. Every class we shared, I could feel the weight of his contempt pressing against my skin like frostbite. He didn't have to speak. His silence was loud enough. What he didn't know was that I hadn't asked for any of it. I hadn't asked to be born into a body that would someday betray me. I hadn't asked for heats that burned like fire in my veins. I hadn't asked for a bond that would tie me to someone who hated me. And yet, in the cruelest twist of Ali loved him. I loved the way Adrian leaned against the library shelves with his headphones half falling out. I loved how he always carried 2 cups of coffee, just in case someone forgot theirs. I loved how his laugh slipped out when he thought nobody was listening. I loved everything he tried to bury under his anger. But love is a knife when it's one-sided. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. The cafeteria was crowded, the air thick with chatter and clattering trays. I tried to pass unnoticed, head down, clutching my sandwich like a shield. But fate doesn't spare the weak. Hey, Carter. I froze at the sound of his voice. Adrian stood at the center of his table, surrounded by other alphas, all eyes on me. There was no warmth in his gaze, only cruel amusement. Tell me, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Does it feel good, pretending to be something you're not? Or do you get off on lying to people? My throat closed. The room felt too small, too sharp. Someone laughed. Someone else whispered, Omega. I dropped my tray. Food splattered across the floor. And in that moment, with dozens of eyes drilling into me, humiliation sinking into my skin like ink, I decided I was done. Done hiding. Done hurting. Done existing in a world where my body wrote rules I never agreed to. I would end it the only way I could. The hospital smelled like bleach and loneliness. The surgeon's form sat in front of me, a blur through the tears that wouldn't stop falling. Voluntary sterilization and designation removal procedure. In simple words, they would remove what made me an omega. Strip away the glands, the biology, the curse that defined me. No more heats. No more bonds. No more being at the mercy of a system that despised me. No more Adrian. I signed my name with shaking hands. I didn't expect him to follow me there. The waiting room was empty, except for the weight of his footsteps behind me. I turned, my vision still blurred, and saw Adrian standing in the doorway, disheveled, breathless, his hoodie clinging to him as if he'd been running. Evan. His voice cracked, raw. I froze, the pen still clutched in my hand. What do you want? He swallowed hard, his eyes darting to the form on the counter, then back to me. You can't do this. A bitter laugh clawed its way out of me. Can't? What do you care? You made it perfectly clear how disgusting I am to you. His face contorted with something, guilt, anger, regret, I couldn't tell. I was wrong. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to make him feel every shard of glass he had shoved into me. Instead, my voice broke into pieces. You called me pathetic. You made me believe I was nothing. And now you want to stop me? For what? So you can keep hating me tomorrow? Adrian stepped closer, but I backed away, clutching the form like it was my last lifeline. No, he whispered, because I don't hate you. I never hated you. I was afraid. The words slammed into me harder than any insult ever could. Afraid. Of me. Of this. Of what we could be. That night was the first time Adrian told me the truth. He hated Omegas because he hated himself, because the bond between Alpha and Omega terrified him. It stripped away choice. It stripped away freedom. It made people like us puppets to biology. But what scared him most wasn't the bond. It was me. Because despite everything he'd told himself about hating Omegas, about never letting fate decide for him, he wanted me. And that want was stronger than his pride. You make me lose control, Evan, he said, his hands trembling as they hovered inches from mine. And I thought if I pushed you away, it would go away too. But it didn't. It broke you. And I can't live with that. I looked at him, at the Alpha who had torn me down, who now stood before me shaking like a boy who had lost his way. And I realized maybe he was just as trapped by fate as I was. Maybe we both were. But love built on pain doesn't heal in a single confession. It bleeds. It festers. It demands time. The hospital didn't erase my scars. His apology didn't erase my humiliation. And yet when Adrian reached for me, when his hand finally touched mine for the first time in weeks, I didn't pull away. Because somewhere deep down, buried under every wound, I still loved him. And that was the cruelest fate of all. The days after that night were a blur, like watching myself through a fogged mirror. I didn't go through with the surgery. I couldn't, not when Adrian's words still echoed in my head. Not when the hand I had once longed for was finally reaching toward me. But stopping the surgery didn't mean my pain had vanished. It sat inside me like a stone, heavy and sharp. Every time I looked at Adrian, I remembered the cafeteria, the whispers, the way he'd said pathetic with such venom. Forgiveness wasn't something I could hand out like candy. Adrian knew it. And for the first time, he didn't run. He showed up the next morning outside my dorm, sitting on the steps with a cup of coffee the same way he used to carry an extra one, just in case. When I tried to walk past, he stood, blocking my way. I'm not going to pretend it's fine, he said quietly. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm not leaving until you hear me out. The anger inside me sparked like flint. You think showing up with coffee makes it better? Do you think a few words erase what you did to me? No, he admitted, his shoulders slumping. I think it takes more than that. I think it'll take me proving it to you over and over until you believe me. If you'll let me try. The rawness in his voice disarmed me, if only for a second. I hated that part of me still wanted to believe him. Our reconciliation wasn't linear. Some days I wanted to scream at him, to throw every wound back into his face until he bled as I had bled. Other days, I caught myself watching the way his hair fell into his eyes when he studied, or how he laughed when he forgot to guard himself, and I felt my chest ache with love I hadn't killed. He gave me space when I pushed him away. He stayed when I told him to go. He listened, and slowly, The walls I had built began to crack. The turning point came when my heat arrived early. I had miscalculated, my suppressants weaker after the hospital ordeal. The first wave hit me in the middle of class, fire crawling under my skin, twisting through my veins. I barely made it to the restroom before my knees buckled. I hated the loss of control, the way my body demanded what my mind despised. And in my haze, I cursed fate for chaining me to biology I couldn't escape. That's when Adrian found me. He had followed, sensing something wrong, and when he opened the door, his eyes widened in alarm. "Evan, get out!" I hissed, pressing myself against the stall wall, shaking. He didn't. He crouched down, voice trembling but steady. "I'm not here to take advantage of you. I can't leave you like this." My tears burned hotter than the fever in my veins. "This is what you hated, Adrian. This is what you called pathetic. Look at me. Weak, helpless, a slave to something I can't control." His expression broke, shattering like glass. "No, I was wrong. You're not weak. You're the strongest person I know. You survived me. You survived this world. Evan, you survived yourself." And then hesitantly, carefully reached through the space between us and held my hand. Not to claim, not to bind, just to anchor me while I fell apart. For the first time, my heat didn't feel like a prison. It felt like something I didn't have to face alone. That night, when the fever subsided and my body was mine again, I lay in my dorm bed staring at the ceiling. Adrian sat in the chair beside me, exhausted, his hoodie pulled tight around him. I whispered, "Why are you still here?" He lifted his head, eyes bloodshot but soft. "Because leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life. And I won't do it again." My chest cracked open, and for the first time I let him see Miral see me. Not just the Omega he feared, not the boy he broke, but the man who still loved him despite everything. Love after ruin is not simple. It is not clean, but it is real. Adrian and I started over piece by piece. He apologized not once, not twice, but every time he saw my scars resurface. He showed up. He stayed. He fought his own demons beside me. And I learned to forgive not because I forgot, but because I chose to build something new on the ashes of what he burned. Months later, standing with him on the rooftop of our campus library, the same place where everything had begun, I asked him the question that had haunted me from the start. If fate hadn't made me an Omega, would you still love me? Adrian looked at me, eyes steady, voice unwavering. I don't love you because you're an Omega, Evan. I love you because you're you, because you're stubborn and brilliant and brave enough to survive me. Fate didn't make me love you. You did. And in that moment, I knew whatever biology said, whatever fate dictated, it didn't matter. Because we had chosen each other. The spring semester ended with sunlight spilling across campus, laughter echoing through the halls, and Adrian's hand wrapped firmly around mine. Once, I thought the operating table was my only escape. Now, I realized survival wasn't about cutting myself apart to fit the world, it was about finding someone who would fight the world beside me. Adrian wasn't perfect. Neither was I. But love isn't about perfection. It's about choice. And this time, the choice was ours. As the cherry blossoms bloomed outside the library windows, I leaned into Adrian's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart against mine. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of being an Omega. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of being loved. And for the first time, I was free. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.